We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. So right now, time 2:23 p.m. Hey, let me tell you, I already got a text from our friend Allie, who calls the show pretty regularly. Allie just texted me and said in regards to my monologue there just a moment ago, she says, word in all caps. And she said, let the record reflect that I am far more than a person with the capacity to get pregnant. And oh, by the way, that is something reserved for my gender and my gender alone. My simple answer, yes, that's exactly right. They can't redefine biology, but they want to. They want to. Thank you, Allie. Appreciate you as always. All right, by the way, several things happening here. I mean, every day as we ramp up into like the new round here of Rightside Radio. 1 year in, syndicated, covering half the state now. Here's the other thing. I talked to you yesterday about our website, rightsideradio.org. Well, it's official. As of today, we are also live streaming the show on video. So, yeah, you can see Boomer and I sitting in the studio right now, me waving my hands in the air when I get animated. You can. I will tell you this. It doesn't sync with the audio on the radio. So if you want to hear the show while watching the video, best use the video audio, if you know what I mean. All right. Am I saying that right, Boomer? Did I get it? Am I good? All right. Boomer's giving me 2 thumbs up, which you'll see on the video, by the way. All right. So there's that. Just know this, that the rightsideradio.org website, it's got a ton of stuff on it. And we literally are doing things every day to tweak the show and make it a little bit better. Thank you, Copper. I see the nice up on the board. What do you think about that? I mean, I've got a face made for radio, but suddenly I'm on video. I don't know how to take it. I don't know what that means. A politician's face. Oh, is that it? And then I just lure them in with my winsome ways and just pound them. Pound them with the truth is what I like. I think it's better to have the face of a game show host. That's what you really want. The face of a game show. No? Face of a weatherman. The weatherman. No. All right. God gave me the face I got, and you're seeing it on video, folks. Here, it's up there. All right. But yeah, that's going on. Plus the podcasts are on there. If you miss part of the show every single day, the show gets kind of broken down into manageable segments, uploaded into almost every form of podcasting known to man. That's on the same page on the rightsideradio.org website. And right now we got like 62,000 downloads of the podcast. People from all over the nation, really all over the world. What's crazy is when Birdman got me the last stats, we had like people in Canada, in Cyprus, in Australia. I'm like, what in the world? But nonetheless, they go out there and they find a topic they like, and apparently there's some that like, and we got like 600, 700 people. I think it's 670 in California. So hello, California. We love you out there on the left coast. But yeah, all that's on rightsideradio.org. What a kick I'm having doing this. And I love it. But if you find that you've missed part of the show, you can catch it on podcast. If you wonder whether or not I shaved today, you can see it on video. All this kind of stuff's on there. But between the team we've got here, all the social media coming online, and greater increase, I'm just saying, it's all there. One other thing I want to make you guys aware. Rightside Radio is its own separate entity. We are an entity unto ourselves. Therefore, we have a staff unto ourselves. Therefore, we are hiring. As we expand right now, when you go to rightsideradio.org, you'll see right there at the top of the page, it says Rightside Radio is hiring. Click the drop down on that, and you will see a full detail of what we're looking for. If you are someone who can put out a handshake and look someone straight in the eye and believes in what we do here as part of our mission, and you're willing to be able to manage yourself, flex your hours, and make a good living, we may want to talk to you about being on the Right Side team. We are hiring right now. Interviewed somebody today, I believe, and yeah, we'd love to have you guys consider that. All right, lots of doings. When I get in the Triple Dipper here in a minute, I got to tell you, some of what I got today, I might even call this a red meat day, because I'm looking at government policies today that are just the kind that are making people mad, bringing people to action on a regular basis. But that's what's going to happen. We cannot sit idly by and let these policies keep getting foisted upon us that do things like wreck our economy, ruin our personal incomes, damage our families. And I'm not talking about call to arms. I'm not calling about the fake insurrection that they want to talk about with the January 6th Commission. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about speaking out. I don't know if you've ever read it or not. One of my favorite books is by an Alabamian, a guy named Andy Andrews. I love his stuff. He wrote one called How to Kill 11 Million People. There's a title for you. How to Kill 11 Million People. Easy read, super sharp, very entertaining, but yet very sobering at the same time. How to Kill 11 Million People is basically, the premise is, how was it that Nazi Germany, that the people sat by and allowed 11 million people to be exterminated, largely Jews, but also other minorities and handicaps and other things that were just considered to be the lesser of society by the Nazis. How is it that 11 million people could be exterminated and nobody said anything? The premise of the book is if you don't speak truth to power once in a while, then they have no accountability and they just get away with stuff. That can't happen. That's why we exist as a show. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, Phil Williams. Yes, indeed, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right, spanning across the greater part of North Alabama. Glad you guys are with us. Hey, listen, I'm into number one of the Triple Dipper. I'm calling this one Nothing to See Here. You know, kind of like what I said in my monologue. They want you to believe that, it's smoke and mirrors. Nothing to see here. Surely to goodness, there's nothing to see here. What am I talking about? Well, right now, I'm going to focus largely on, for the next half hour, I'm going to focus largely on the fact that the Biden administration has not only lost complete control of the border, they've done so intentionally, and not only that, they are now taking the people, I say now, they've been doing it for a year, taking the people that cross our border illegally and very often either busing or flying them into the heartland of America. I've heard a number of politicians say, and I believe the phrase is accurate, every state is a border state right now. Every state in the Biden administration is a border state. Well, so let me just run through the list of some things I've got. And by the way, top of the hour, coming up at 3 o'clock, we've got Dylan Smith calling in from Yellowhammer News, going to talk about a piece he wrote yesterday about indications that the Biden administration, could be flying people into Alabama. Don't know. It's got some holes in the story. We'll talk about it. But we do know that has been happening elsewhere. And in the law, as a practice of law, we look at things that are times, they're circumstantial, but they create what's called a pattern in practice. We discuss a line of questioning and someone says, relevance, Your Honor, it goes to the pattern in practice of the individual. Well, what we're looking at here is the pattern in practice of this administration has been that they are literally taking illegals from the border after they've rushed across the Rio Grande or crossed into the country here illegally in whatever capacity, of all ages, and they're literally busing and flying them around the nation. And oftentimes the communities they drop them off in don't even know they're coming. They just drop them off, and wow, and this shouldn't be happening. So here's a story on centersquare.com. Centersquare.com. Just so you know, the state of Alabama is not blind to this. And your own Attorney General, Steve Marshall, is not sitting idly by. Centersquare.com reported in April of this year, just what are we looking at here, 2.5 months ago? Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall is suing the Biden administration over claims it is ignoring immigration law that requires the federal government to arrest, detain, and deport foreign nationals in the U.S. illegally. So once again, we are literally seeing our Attorney General lead the way in terms of the national fight against things that are happening with the Biden administration. And you have to. That's what attorney generals are not just there to prosecute crimes by people within the state, crimes against the people. Sometimes he's there to defend the interests of the state, if you will, in the broader sense, as in this case. It says the lawsuit alleges that the Biden administration's immigration policy exceeds the authority of the Department of Homeland Security. It's arbitrary and capricious. That's a standard, by the way, that a lot of times you have to show that a policy of a governmental entity was done in an arbitrary and capricious manner, meaning they stepped outside of the bounds of what is allowed. Goes on to say they've illegally bypassed notice and public commenting, and their actions are unconstitutional. The Republican attorneys general of Florida and Georgia joined the lawsuit, which was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Alabama, which, by the way, is in Huntsville. Steve Marshall, our attorney general, who was on the show, about a week or two ago, he says the Biden administration cannot ignore the law, nor should it place American lives in jeopardy by allowing criminal aliens to escape the long arm of justice. In this particular case, what we're looking at is the fact that Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, who's supposed to be in charge of the border, who likes to say, as he did last week, I believe, that the border is A-OK. It's secure. Secure as what? It's about as secure as a sieve that you're just draining water through. It's like a bucket full of holes. Well, at issue right now is a new policy that Mayorkas just instituted that really creates sweeping changes to customs and immigration enforcement. And it wasn't challenged in court at the time. The policy went into effect in November. What's happened now is the AGs are asking the court to nullify the policy. The policy is that they are not immediately deporting people who arrive with known criminal records. What in God's name? I mean, take a look at this. how much sense does it make? First of all, they broke the law to get here, right? I mean, there's point number one. They're lawbreakers from the moment they arrive. I recognize there's this, sense that some of them are children, some are people fleeing a bad situation, some are looking for hope in a different land, but they came here wrong, so it's a crime nonetheless. It's illegal immigration. They don't want to call it that, but we do have to call it that. But then what about the ones who arrive that are, sex offenders, predators, known, violent criminals, drug traffickers? And they come here very often having already been deported in the past, or they come here with a criminal record that we can access and see. We know. And yet Mayorkas is saying the new policy will require an assessment of the individual in order to take into account the totality of the facts and circumstances. What he's really doing is just thumbing his nose at the rest of us. They're refusing to detain and deport criminal aliens. And it makes no sense. In doing that, though, we're also seeing illegal immigrants being shipped around the nation, busing, dropping them off in communities left and right, that we're literally seeing planes landing in the dark of night in some communities. This is not hyperbole on my part. This is legit. This is happening. We have video. Here's a classic example. New York Post reported in January of this year, title of it, Betraying the American People. A leaked video reveals Joe Biden's hush-hush migrant invasion. Okay, so here's a classic example. It happened, and it happened under the cover of darkness. Word got out. Body cam footage from one of the police officers who responded to the situation was released. I'm pretty sure it's fair to say that the police officers, or maybe his police department, did not appreciate the lack of security being foisted upon their community. And so the video got out. Well, here's the deal. It says literally 2 million illegal immigrants from dozens of countries crossed over from Mexico last year, and the Biden administration is facilitating the cartels who are people smuggling every day at taxpayer expense. Under cover of darkness, every night, the federal government is transporting illegal migrants as fast as it can away from the border on charter flights into unsuspecting communities around the country. And literally lying about it or obfuscating, or at the very least trying to hide it. The article goes on to say this is a betrayal of the American people, and I agree. And so when they were confronted, because what happened was local law enforcement got word of a plane full of illegals landing at a local airfield. In this case, I believe they were, where were they? Oh my goodness. Westchester County, I think this is in Massachusetts. And they got there and they were like, what are you guys doing? And they said, we can't talk to you. It's all classified. What's classified? Well, a police sergeant named Michael Hamborski began to express frustration with them, and his body cam footage was on. And so it's a 51-minute video, which was obtained under a Freedom of Information Act requested by a former Westchester County executive who was running for governor at the time. And literally what it showed was they were shipping them out, and they were flying them from places like McAllen, Texas, El Paso, Texas. Keep that name handy in your thought processes. El Paso and Houston. Flights stopping only after the New York Post revealed their existence. Well, they haven't entirely stopped because some of them kept going on. Here's the thing, though. As those contractors, these independent contractors being confronted, they were asked for their IDs. They were refusing to give it. They finally gave up their badges they had on lanyards around their neck. One of them said, we're subcontractors of a government contractor, One of them mentioned the U.S. Army. I don't know how that plays in. But the individuals who were driving the buses that came to pick up the illegal migrants who were being dropped off illegally in the dark of night, well after midnight, in a small town in Massachusetts, they say that they get contracted to drive people all the time like this. And this particular night, they got a panic phone call at 12:24 a.m. saying, we got to have 4 buses right away. And they said, we have to do it. We're a government contractor. But then here's the deal. Hamborski, the police sergeant, looked at one of the contractors who was unloading people from the plane and said, what's the big secret? And the contractor says, you know why? Because if this gets out, the government knows it's betraying the American people. That's the comment being made by the contractor who was flying them in. Well, a story by Dylan Smith, and we'll talk to him about it directly at the top of the hour. And by the way, I recognize this story's got some holes in it. There's no proof of the discussion being brought to bear in this article. But the questions have to be asked because of the same things that I just told you about. I've got another article here about flights coming into Chattanooga with migrants being bused to Mobile, Alabama. Well, Dylan Smith wrote an article that came out yesterday in Yellowhammer News. It says that charter flights departing from the U.S.-Mexico border have routinely arrived at Alabama airports, oftentimes hours after midnight. An analysis of flight tracking data conducted by Yellowhammer News confirms. Now, I am fully aware that they say in the article, Dylan did not pull punches. He said Yellowhammer News has not obtained information regarding the source of the southern border flights. But they did originate in El Paso. Remember I said a minute ago that El Paso is one of the sites of origin for these flights of illegals that are being brought in all over the place around the nation. It says, and it cites some of the investigative reporting done previously by the New York Post in the article. It goes on to say that what we know right now is that a number of craft, which are capable of carrying hundreds of passengers, were being used to bring who knows what or who in over a period of the last couple of months, from June to July. And in May of 2021, it points out in an article that I've got here in a moment, migrant children were being bused out of Tennessee after being flown there from El Paso. And late last year, in a story that I'll bring you to in a minute, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had to take the administration to task over what he called clandestine flights being brought to his state by the federal government. We'll talk to Dylan Smith about that at the top of the hour. I got a little more on this when we get back, but here's my question. Why is it a secret? Well, you know why it's a secret. That contractor said it, because it's a betrayal of the American people. Nothing to see here. Don't look. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, or for that matter, the plane load of illegal immigrants that just landed in small-town America. Are they landing in Alabama? I don't have a clear answer yet, but I know they've been here. They absolutely have been here. They've been here. All right, let's take a break right now. Copper, we'll do that. We'll come back and finish up this segment. And then top of the hour, Dylan Smith, who wrote that article, will be here to kind of just provide some commentary on it and see where the story's going. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid conservative, just plain right. All right, we're in number one of the Triple Dipper right now, calling it Nothing to See Here. Why is there nothing to see? Well, partly because they do it in the dark of night. We're talking about the fact that the Biden administration has been literally busing or flying illegal immigrants all over the nation and just dropping them off in communities. It's documented. It happens. I told you about in the last segment there the fact that we've got a 51-minute body cam video of a police officer confronting a large group of contractors who are bringing a large group of illegals in to a small town in Massachusetts. We've got any number of documented stories like, how about this one? Local 3 News up in Chattanooga. Local 3 News reports late-night flights carrying migrant children arrive in Chattanooga. Now, this is from May of last year, all right, so I recognize that. But nonetheless, I want to make sure you hear this part. The Chattanooga Airport, Chattanooga's Wilson Air Center, had been receiving planes carrying migrant children who are then being bused to multiple southeastern cities during overnight hours. Why are they arriving? Why are planes of children arriving in the dark of night? I mean, literally, they're arriving after midnight. In this particular one, they had a video. Channel 3 got a video of one of the planes arriving at 1:30 in the morning. They're children. So first of all, you're flying planes full of children to points wherever, in this case Chattanooga, landing at 1:30 in the morning, putting them on buses, charter buses, and the charter buses are going all over the place. In that particular case, I think they said they were going to, they were owned by a company called Coast to Coast Tours out of East Point, Georgia. And that particular one, I believe, went to Miami. But they say that they have in the past, the company's traveled and dropped off in Mobile, Alabama. So don't think it's not happening here, because it is. And the cost of this to the taxpayers, aside from just security issues, aside from just the stability of society as a whole, there's a financial cost of this. And I've got a clip. Copper, just highlight the word ready if you're good to go on that clip one. This is, yeah, great, thank you. This is Congressman Mo Brooks, who earlier this year in February was on Fox Business and was asked about the cost of the Biden administration. So I've got about a minute and a half here of Congressman Brooks. Copper, go ahead and play clip one. All right, stop it there, Copper. Yeah, what Congressman Brooks nailing it. I mean, there is a cost to this. It's not just a cost to the security and the sanctity of the nation. There's a financial cost to this. Billions. What in the world are we spending money? Why is this happening? Well, it's happening because it's deliberate at this point. There's no way around it. It's deliberate. I've got stories here from the post-millennial. Governor Abbott. This is just this is yesterday. Governor Abbott has got new orders in place as a governor, ordering migrant buses to go back to the Texas-Mexico border. He can't deport them, but he can sure take them to a port of entry and make sure they get detained and not just be another batch of gotaways. You've got lawsuits actually being filed by the ACLU against the Biden administration. When you've lost the ACLU and you're a liberal, you've lost. I'm just saying. And then you've got things like what's happening right now in Tennessee. And I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. It could be a one-off bill that somebody's tried to file for posturing, but nonetheless, we have one particular state representative in Nashville, Tennessee, who filed a bill that would make sure that any undocumented workers who are found to be located in illegal migrants found to be in Tennessee have to get shipped, in this case, to the home states of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to happen. It was probably just posturing on his part. He dropped a bill, but he made some news. But that's the kind of frustration we got. I mean, when you're looking at a situation like we have right now, where there's nothing to see here, why is there nothing to see? Because it's in the dark of night, and they don't want you to know. Why don't they want us to know? Because in the words of that one federal contractor on the body cam of the police officer in Massachusetts, because they know it's a betrayal of the American public. And it's wrong. All right, folks, listen, we're going to talk to Dylan Smith from Yellowhammer News here in a minute about the story he wrote about the potential for these flights dropping into Tuscaloosa. Did that happen? I don't know. We'll talk to him. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. All right, Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here from the Rightside Studios, local, state, national, all the issues. And we are solid, conservative, and like the dude just said, just plain right. All right, glad you guys are with us. Hour 2 of the show. I've been in number 1 of our triple dipper for the day. Nothing to see here is what I call it. And nothing to see here. Why is that? Because they bring them in the dark of night so you can't see it. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Nothing to see here. Well, illegal immigrants, we know for a fact because we have video, we have other reporting going on. We have literally been able to track this. There are charter bus companies that will agree that they've been picking up illegals from airports and busing them to all points, to include some here in Alabama. Well, a story was written yesterday on Yellowhammer News by Dylan Smith. Title of the story: Late night southern border flights make landing in Alabama cities. Now, don't know for a fact what the contents of these planes were. But when they're coming from El Paso, one of the major ports of entry and, oh, by the way, exit points for flights of illegals, and they're landing after midnight in Tuscaloosa, it causes you to ponder, and I think the question has to be asked. So let me just, without further ado, bring on Dylan Smith from Yellowhammer News. Dylan, how you doing today, man? I'm good. Thanks for making some time for us today. So, yeah, your story got my attention, got attention of a lot of people. It also got the attention on social media of some more liberal members of your industry who take issue with the idea that you would dare to ask these questions. But give us the background for your story. Well, so let me ask you, Dylan, because um, another, batch of reporters took issue with it on social media. I've been banding some things back and forth with them, but they claim they've called the airport, and the airport says nothing to see here. So, what have you gotten any follow up response? Have you had a chance to investigate in deeper detail? Have you had are there any other reportings from the airlines as to who landed and why? Yeah. All right. Well, and okay, I take all that, and I appreciate it. And the question has to be asked, in my opinion. That's why, I get it. Some of these reporters who are taking issue with this, they, by the way, they have a very liberal bias. There was a pretty snarky follow up by this group of guys out of Tuscaloosa that just made it. Basically, they were more inclined to want to trash you and Yellowhammer than they were about answering your post. But nonetheless, they're the ones who claim they called the airport and the airport said nothing to see here. But you even referenced in your own story, and I talked about it a moment ago before you came on the air, that we know for a fact that last year Chattanooga was a way station where they were flying in the middle of the night, flying in planes of migrant children, and some of the charter buses, according to the reporting out of Chattanooga, some of the buses that were chartered were bringing them to Mobile, Alabama. And so it's not like this has not happened, and you're right. I think we have to stay on top of it and ask the questions when the times arise, because if we don't ask the questions, they're left unchecked and there's no accountability. So let me ask you this. I guess the last question is, we kind of talk through the reporting of your story. And granted, sourcing a story is always the best idea. Have you had a chance to reach out to the governor's office or any other state officials and ask for their insights, opinions, and/or their knowledge of what you're reporting about whether or not these flights contain migrants? Well, and we certainly All right, and we certainly have a pattern in practice in the Biden administration that causes one to go, when you see flights landing at midnight or after midnight. Hey, Dylan Smith, we appreciate your time. Thanks for staying on this, and do stay on it. And if you get more, just let us know, because we'll touch base with you again on it. But thanks for what you do. All right. All right. Take care. All right, well, there you have it. I'm going to wrap up number one of the Triple Dipper. Nothing to see here. Well, they're saying nothing to see here. And, right now, we even have flights landing in Tuscaloosa that, at the very least, I will say this. At the very least, the fact that you got irregular patterns of flights coming in from El Paso, Texas in the dark of night without manifests that indicate what's on those planes. When you take that in its totality against the reporting that we've had in other places of the nation, to include, by the way, landing in Chattanooga, just barely north of our border, really in this listening area, actually, and then busing migrant children, in that case, into Mobile, Alabama. Well, what we're looking at here is, again, what I call a pattern in practice. You can go ahead and say it's happened before, it's happened regularly, it's well documented. Why should we not ask the question? They may say nothing to see here. I'm saying we have to ask the question. It goes back to what I said earlier. If you don't ask the question, if you don't speak truth to power when necessary, then there's zero accountability and it just rocks on. All right, Copper, I tell you what, great place for a break. Let's go ahead and do that right now. We will take that break and come back. I'm moving forward in the Triple Dipper. Next one, I'm calling it Don't Blame the Farmers. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about, seriously, the fact that we've got stuff happening worldwide right now that is impacting the ability to get farm-to-market goods. But it ain't the farmers' fault. And it ain't because they don't have rain. It's because of government action. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. So yeah, that's us. And by the way, I got to tell you guys, just earlier today, the folks from ZLA Solutions came by to see the new studio. You hear me talk about them all the time. I'm telling you, they're friends of mine, and they are doing an amazing job across North Alabama. ZLA Solutions. If you're not familiar, ZLA Solutions is one of the best out there right now for putting people back to work. I'm saying. So if you're looking for a job, you personally looking for a job, and you need something, like you want a good living wage, go to their website, zlausa.com. They've got great paying jobs all over North Alabama. They had some most recently paying between $17 and $20 an hour. But if you're an employer and you're looking to fill out the ranks of your workforce, and you need some mass hiring, or even a small group, or just certain key individuals, they can do all the recruiting, the background checks, the drug testing. That's what they do, man. Blue collar, white collar, no collar, it don't matter. ZLA Solutions at zlausa.com. They like to say at ZLA, we don't make it, we just make it better, because that's their mission in life, man, is to make your business better. So yeah, check them out, zlausa.com, the website for ZLA Solutions. Tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I get the biggest kick when they tell me, people say, hey, I heard it on the radio show. Yeah, thank you. Hey, listen, I got to tell you some breaking news right now, and I don't know, I'm going to step aside for the Triple Dipper here in a minute. So President Biden is on his way to the Middle East right now. Looking up on the wall right now in the studio, we've got CNN touting it as a historic Middle East trip. I mean, I don't think CNN really cared as much when we had the Abraham Accords, we had the movement of the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, when we had President Trump go over and they had a state dinner affair for him in Saudi Arabia, when Iran was put on its heels. No, now President Biden is headed over. But the weird thing is he won't be shaking hands in the Middle East. Even though he did it quite a bit yesterday at a congressional picnic, he won't be shaking hands over there, allegedly because doctor's orders. It's not safe. Apparently, I don't know, is there a rash of COVID in the Middle East? Well, I think what it really is, here's my thought on it. This is President Biden, and they're trying to avoid having photo ops with him shaking hands with Saudi princes and with other allies in the Middle East who might take issue in the middle of him trying to get the Iran nuclear deal rekindled. It's everywhere you turn. I mean, I saw one headline this morning that said that, all of a sudden was not in the headline, but the headline was that the Biden administration has now agreed to sell offensive weapons to Saudi Arabia. At the same time, they've also opened an inquiry into whether or not the new Live Golf League has in some way, whether the PGA has in some way entered into antitrust violations. Why? I don't know. Some speculate it's because the Saudi Arabians are the ones backing the Live Golf League. All I'm saying is this. What a wacky time for him to head over to the Middle East and to not do handshakes, to make special side deals with the Saudis while he's trying to rekindle a negotiated Iran nuclear deal that no one in the Middle East wants, because none of them want to see a nuclear Iran. None of them. Doesn't matter what side they're on. At the same time, we had peace like we had never had in the Middle East before Biden was elected. So there's that. That's breaking news story number one. It's on one screen right now here in the studio. However, the other screen has got the other breaking news of the day. We've been sitting on, nationally speaking, we've been sitting on 40-year highs for inflation. We've been at 8.6%, not seen since the Carter era in the 70s. Guess what? We just broke the record again today. 9.1% inflation. 9.1% inflation. That's an economy that is literally rushing right now towards recession. When Biden first took office, inflation was running roughly at 1 to 1.2%. Less than a year and a half into his administration, we have set new decades-high records and our country is at 9.1% inflation. With, by the way, no more energy independence, which we had when he took office. With, by the way, uncontrollable crossings at the southern border, which were largely under control before he took office. It boggles the mind. Well, it's 9.1% uninflation. Uninflation. 9.1% inflation. I wish it was uninflation. Is that a thing, Boomer? Can we have uninflation? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I look at it and go, I like uninflation. Do you?
Yes, absolutely. I wish we had that.
Yeah, I mean, go get a burger. It's going to cost twice as much for too long. But uninflation. You just heard it coined here on Rightside Radio.
Boom.
All right. It's really, I guess really it's not funny, but there it is. All right, folks, that's the breaking news stories we got right now. All right, coming up in a minute, we're going to be going to number 2 on the Triple Dipper. I'm calling this one, Don't Blame the Farmers. Why? Have you seen what's happening with fertilizer? Fertilizer? What's fertilizer got to do with anything, Phil? I mean, fertilizer, you throw it in the field, you throw it on the ground, right? You just throw it down and walk away. Well, there's a thing called agroscience, and agroscience says there are means by which you do this in certain scheduled times and scheduled ways, and if you know what you're doing, you can obviously enhance the capability to row crop, and at the same time, apparently, the Green New Deal activists have targeted nitrogen-based fertilizers around the world. The European Union has put together some guidelines that are choking off farmers in Europe. But, oh, by the way, the Biden administration is taking some rather strange steps toward nitrogen fertilizer industry here in the United States. What's happening with all this? Well, I'll tell you what's happening. Especially the smaller farms, the family-owned farms, are suffering. You ask a farmer today, what does it cost you to buy fertilizer? What does it cost you to fill up the tanks on your combine or your tractors? What does it cost you to seed your farms for the next season? Or for that matter, what does it cost you to get your farm to market goods out? It's exponential. A lot of it starting with fertilizer, and even down to the point that the strangest things are happening, like, I don't know, Union Pacific Railroad reducing the shipping of nitrogen-based fertilizers, making it even harder to get. I'm going to go down all of this in a minute. And when you hear what's happening in, with the Dutch farmers, or what's happening in Sri Lanka, it's all about the exact same things. Nitrogen-based fertilizers are now the enemy of the Green New Deal. We'll talk about it when I get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live from the new Rightside Studios. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. So, yeah, we are back on live streaming too. It's very surreal, by the way, to be sitting here in an actual studio set up for the sole purpose of bringing Rightside Radio to the general public. And by the way, it's an honor to have this platform. I do not take this for granted. I do not go into this every single day going, well, they just need to hear from me. No, I feel like this is a mission I've been given, and what a blessing it is to have it. But it does not work if it weren't for y'all. If this show has only been successful, not because of something on this end of the microphone, but on your end of the speaker. I'm just going to tell you, I do not take that for granted, and we appreciate. And by the way, those of you joining us now for the new syndication, because we're covering over half of Alabama. We're from Clanton to the Tennessee line, from Tuscaloosa over to Gadsden, looking at even parts of Tennessee, Georgia, and Mississippi. I'm just saying, if you are listening to the show for the first time this week in the new broadcast range, understand this: the audience, we like to call our audience members Rightside Ruffians, and we love that attitude of being a right side ruffian, being a conservative with a cause, being somebody who is not just willing to sit idly by, but somebody who will actually speak truth to power. And we do this show every day with the sole purpose of being able to do what I call the 4 E's. I want the audience to come on this show and to be educated, enlightened, empowered, and entertained in the process. If you leave this show every day and you have gained something that gives you the ability to have that water cooler conversation, that chance to sit around the dinner table and dialogue about something, about why you're a conservative, not just the fact that you're a conservative, but why you're a conservative. Well, I hope this show has given you that, and it's an honor to have this platform. By the way, one of our regular callers, Copper, what did Brian say a minute ago on the phone with you? You like those kind of creepy Uncle Joe videos where he sniffs people's hair? Is that what you're talking about? That is, yeah. There's some serious creep factor with some of the videos you see of the way. Okay, thanks, Brian. Appreciate the visual. All right. Hey, listen, top of the next hour, we'll pause the Triple Dipper and go to one of my favorite segments of every single week. We've been calling it Copper's Corner. And as the show grows and transitions, there will be some changes, unfortunately, in the near future. And Copper won't always be with us. She'll be with us sometimes. But she has done a great job, has been a blessing to us, and we appreciate her. So Copper's Corner is what we call that. And at 4 o'clock today, she'll be going another round of Copper's Corner, sharing perspectives that she not only has, but she's good at enunciating. So Copper's Corner at top of the hour. Right now, I'm moving to number 2 on the the Triple Dipper. When you're on the air, you don't want to go but I just did. So I felt like I was stumbling. Anyway, the bottom line is number 2 on the Triple Dipper. Don't blame the farmers. Don't blame the farmers. What are we talking about? Well, are you looking right now at the cost of goods in the grocery store? Have you been to a farmer's market lately and seen, the shortages? Have you checked out, here we are, new flash we just had a while ago, a news flash today, 9.1% inflation. Lord, 9.1%. Ugh. And when you say 9.1%, that's in general. You can take certain things and you can find that literally 9.1% is not the same on everything. Like bacon, boomer, bacon. Last time I checked, bacon was at like 17% inflation.
Ooh, man, that's a lot. I don't get to eat much bacon anymore.
It's like, America. How do you have America with 17% inflation on bacon?
America, no bacon. That's going like I have to have my bacon.
It's the downfall of what we know as Western civilization. Anyway, let's move on from that. But what I'm saying is this, y'all. On a more serious note, a big part of what's happening is green energy policies being foisted upon farmers left and right. And one of the big targets now is nitrogen-based fertilizer, which if you're in agribusiness at all, if you have a farming background, if you have an agri-science degree, whatever nitrogen-based fertilizer. And by the way, the scheduling of your your implementation of fertilizing each season to maximize your ability to grow crops, that's a big deal. And the cost of fertilizer is through the roof. And not only that, now it's getting hard to find. So let me give you some U.S. side of this that might help you see and understand some of these farm-to-market hiccups that we got going on. Number one, in the Federal Register, which is where it documents things that are being put out by the federal government. In the Federal Register, it notes that in March of this year, the Biden administration issued an executive order titled Promoting Competition in the American Economy and made sure that Secretary of Agriculture Vilsack began taking what they called wide-ranging concerns from agricultural producers. About what, pray tell? Well, here's one. About the vast majority of fertilizer being centered in 4 major companies. 75% of all U.S. nitrogen fertilizers from 4 companies. You know what that tells me, first of all? I don't know, maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. What that tells me is the Biden administration is just like they did with, other industries. They're targeting. They're coming in, and it's not an antitrust thing. They're not looking to deconstruct. What they're doing is they're identifying what they would consider to be the linchpins in the economic structure or infrastructure of a certain industry. In this case, fertilizer. Why? Well, they say, according to the Federal Register, their belief is that a handful of fertilizer companies control the channels through which farmers obtain these nutrients to raise a productive crop. Okay. They go on to say that nitrogen fertilizers prices have increased 95%. Yes. And potash fertilizers have increased 70%. Okay. And that feed grains in 2022 could face an increased cost of $128,000 per farm due to higher fertilizer cost. Okay. And what they're saying here is they are taking this under advisement and reviewing the situation. And by the way, do you trust them for a second? Biden did this with the meatpacking industry. This is what he tried to blame the cost of meat for. The meatpacking industry is too centered in certain. They're not out there pirating this stuff. And by the way, the cost of fertilizer wasn't through the roof before Biden took office. So what else could be happening? Well, here's a story for you. Michigan Farm News. Yes, when I range out there to get sources for the show, I look all over the place. Here's one from Michigan Farm News. Michigan Farm News reports in April of this year, U.S. fertilizer manufacturer CF Industries, let's call it CFI, CF Industries, is advising all of its customers that Union Pacific has mandated shipping reductions in nitrogen fertilizer. Why? Well, they say that they're reducing some of their transportation overhead in general, but they're targeting certain industries. Funny how the one they targeted, in this case, is the nitrogen-based fertilizer companies. Non-compliance, according to CFI, is going to result in the embargo of its facilities by Union Pacific, and literally, CFI was told it had to reduce its shipments by nearly 20%. This is one of the largest manufacturers of nitrogen-based fertilizer in the nation. It says that CFI, well, it's the largest. CFI is the largest producer in North America. And its Donaldsonville complex is the largest single production facility for these products in North America. And they're now being required, not because it's not available, they're being required because the shipper won't ship it at the same levels. They're being required to reduce their output by 20%. Here's the quote from the company. It says, not only will fertilizer be delayed by these shipping restrictions, but additional fertilizer needed to complete spring applications may be unable to reach farmers at all. By placing this arbitrary restriction on just a handful of shippers, Union Pacific is jeopardizing farmers' harvests and increasing the cost of food for consumers. Aha! You know why? Because trickle-down economics does work, and so does trickle-up economics. When you crush a piece of the chain, it's like causing the dominoes to fall. And when you do things like, I don't know, target nitrogen-based fertilizer from the federal government, and then suddenly, mysteriously, one of the major shipping supply chain components, which is in the case of Union Pacific Railroad, just arbitrarily tells that industry that makes 75% nitrogen-based fertilizer, the largest manufacturer of it in the nation, yeah, you know what? We can't do as much of your stuff, so go ahead and cut that by 20%. And if you don't, we're going to embargo your facility entirely. What the heck? And they say it. They say it clearly. Union Pacific is jeopardizing farmers' harvest and increasing the cost of food for consumers. When I look at this article, my first thought is, where's Booty Judge? All right? Where is he? Where's the Secretary of Transportation? Is he on the job or is he taking another 2-month paternity leave? Where is Booty Judge? Nowhere to be found. CFI, the manufacturer of these products, says it believes they'll be able to fulfill contracted rail shipments to Union Pacific destinations under current orders, but it says they are not sure they're going to be able to do so in time for the spring plantings, and that could be definitely adversely impacted. Well, listen, we're going to take a break right now. When I get back, though, I'm going to tell you, as you're seeing the cost of your goods go up here in the United States, as farmers are suffering the inability to pay for the necessary fertilizers, or for that matter, get the necessary fertilizers, they need to keep the current level of crop growth going on. What's happening in other countries? Well, one of the second largest producers of grain in the world just collapsed because of the same policies, in part targeting nitrogen-based fertilizer. We'll talk about it when we get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We got more. There's some stuff happening worldwide. It's not just here. It's not just the cost of bacon here. It's not just the fact that we've got farm to market prices going through the roof here. It's happening around the world, and it's happening in some key locations. And when I say this is not conspiracy theory. This is published. This is stuff that's out there. This is governmental policy. And it is absolutely jacked up. Can I say, yes, it's jacked up. Classic example of what I'm talking about. Dateline yesterday, July 12th, National Review. The collapse of Sri Lanka is a failure of leftism. If you're not tracking this story, just go Google it. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka. Anyway, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is literally a government in collapse right now. Sri Lanka, under the leadership of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, decided in April of 2021, according to National Review, to become the world's first all-organic country. The government banned the use of chemical fertilizers, specifically nitrogen-based fertilizers, y'all, and banned their importation. And the move was pitched as being some kind of creating a self-reliant economy. You know, this is an island nation. They were going to be hailed as a great experiment in green policy making. Well, so there's a quote in this article from National Review. Milton Friedman, the great economist, said that if you put the government in charge of the Sahara Desert, they'd soon find a sand shortage. And that's exactly what's happened. The Sri Lankan government has done is almost unbelievable. So the article points out there are a few places in the world that are better for agriculture. Sri Lanka is a warm tropical island, plenty of annual rainfall, it points out, perfect for growing rice and tea and cocoa and spices, located along ocean trade routes for easy market access. They had been self-sufficient in rice production since 2005. If you were 20 years old, then you had seen the country's GDP roughly double in your lifetime in Sri Lanka. In 1990, Sri Lanka's GDP was about $2,000 greater than in nearby India. By 2020, it was more than $6,000 greater. But after the fertilizer ban went into effect, get this, after they banned the nitrogen-based fertilizers in a green energy attempt to become what they called an all-organic country, suddenly the fertilizer ban went into effect. Rice production fell by 20% in just 6 months. The country had to import $450 million worth of rice to make up the difference, and rice prices still went up by 50%. Tea exports plummeted. The economy sunk by $425 million. The government reversed parts of the policy, but by then the damage was already done. They literally had a crisis of their own creating. Sri Lanka went from a lower middle income to an upper middle income in 2019, and now all of a sudden people are in poverty, in gas lines, having food shortages, political unrest kicked in. Literally, you want to talk about insurrection? All right, what happened on January 6th is nothing compared to what happened in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, the people stormed the gates. It was like something from the French Revolution. Let them eat cake. In this case, it was let them eat green energy, and they couldn't do it. And they literally stormed, and they burned the president's home, and he has now fled the country. The crisis has caused the collapse of the Sri Lankan government. Why? In large part because of a governmental policy that is being touted, by the way, by the World Economic Forum to ban the use of nitrogen-based fertilizers. Oh, did I just talk about that in the United States a minute ago? Yes, I did. Did I just point out that for some reason the Biden administration is targeting nitrogen-based fertilizer companies? Yes, I did. Did I point out to you a moment ago that in the United States right now, as we see prices for farm to market going through the roof, that for some reason, we're suddenly seeing, you know, Union Pacific Railroad won't ship as much nitrogen-based fertilizer in the nation's largest manufacturer of that extremely important ingredient to healthy farms has been made far more unavailable. Well, it's not just Sri Lanka. It's not just what's happening under the Biden administration. With, you know, where's Buttigieg? We don't know where he is right now with his Union Pacific thing. But how about this? The Epoch Times reports as of this past Friday. Dutch farmers are protesting against a globalist communist agenda. What is going on in Dutch politics? Well, the Dutch government has been planning for years, according to the story off the Epoch Times, to drastically cut the emissions of nitrogen and ammonia produced by livestock and the use of nitrogen-based fertilizer. Why? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with their green energy policies. The nitrogen law, according to one expert, is what they call the straw that breaks the camel's back. They have been subjected to so many insane regulations, it's caused farmers to have to reorganize their farms over and over again and oftentimes completely shut down. Dutch ministers called the proposal a, quote, unavoidable transition. Didn't we hear that from Biden recently? A transition. I'm just saying. Folks, this is a mess. We're going to talk about it more after we take some time for Copper's Corner at the top of the hour. So, yeah, listen, don't blame the farmers. We're seeing some things happen on a worldwide scale that are causing protests to break out, governments to fall, and your prices for goods to go up. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, coming up next. For those of you that are in the Huntsville market, we've got Copper's Corner. Those of you in Birmingham, you have a great day. We will see you back here at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Have a great night. Alabama syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live from the Rightside Studios. All of the issues being covered, and we are solid conservative and just plain right. Well, this is a time where I get to catch my breath, mute my mic, and sit back for a minute and take some notes, because Copper, she may run the boards and all that, but she's also got opinions, and she's good at sharing them. And so for the last, year or so, she's been putting those opinions out there in what we call Copper's Corner. So without further ado, Miss Copper, the microphone is yours. Hey, good stuff. And to boldly go where no man has gone before, right? That's the thing. Copper, you may need to look to your door. I think there may be somebody walking in to see you right about now. Um, are they there? Are they? Oh, did somebody just arrive with something for you? So I know. We just wanted to do that on the air for you. So Birdman agreed to be the delivery man to bring you flowers, Copper, because you've been with us for a year. You're part of the fabric of this show. You are much loved. And I know that things are transitioning here, and you're going to have bigger and better things, I'm sure. And anyway, the bottom line is you're not leaving without flowers, my friend. Outstanding. Well, make sure you tip the delivery man. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. That's a great place to go to a break. But yep, we love you, Copper, and absolutely. Well, good deal. All right, take us to the break. And by the way, good job, Birdman, getting up there and doing a flower delivery while we're on the air. I'm telling you, how cool is that? All right, folks, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. So, Copper, you got Birdman still there in the studio with you? Everybody, we're all on. So Boomer and I are on one side over here, and you got Copper and the Birdman sitting over there, and you got Flowers. That's just good. That is just good. Well, Birdman, I was talking earlier about fertilizer prices, the cost of goods going to market. I know we did Copper and the Birdman the other day, but I know you like your food. What are you seeing cost-wise right now in the grocery store? Bacon. It's Boomer's sitting here. He's really upset about the bacon.
I'm upset about the bacon, and honestly, I'm really upset about the milk. I'm a big milk drinker.
Oh yeah,
big milk drinker. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Copper's not drinking her milk. That's we. Yeah. Okay. All right. We just learned something we didn't want to know about it. There you go. And I got to tell you too. And here's where you double dip into a problem. I'll never forget going to a bakery in, where were we? Savannah, and they had chocolate dipped bacon. Chocolate dipped bacon. Well, if dairy products are going up and bacon's going up, it's going to be really hard to buy the chocolate dipped bacon right now, is what I'm saying. And I know we're kind of making light of this, but you know what though? This is impacting people really. It truthfully is. Birdman, you've been watching the news. Have you seen the thing in Sri Lanka? I was just talking about that a minute ago. Well, that's where you get your best news, is I guess from Rightside Radio, right? But what I'm looking at right now, last piece I've got on this is the fact that there's a story on Farm Policy News Illinois that says that, oh, lo and behold, there are now some green companies that are starting to push the development of farm fertilizers, companies like Pivot Bio and Kula Bio and Anuvia. And farmers are skeptical, but they're being driven out of the price range of getting usual fertilizers because they're being targeted. And so suddenly, oh, look, green energy fertilizer. And funny how that works out, the way things come together like that. I don't know. Yeah, air, I don't know. You probably don't want to know. Yeah. Soylent Green. Y'all ever see Soylent Green? You ever see that movie? Did I just date myself? Okay. All right. You don't want to know what's in Soylent Green. It was this nutrient that was being provided to people by government in a food shortage, and everybody was eating Soylent Green because it was keeping them alive and it was good. And then finally one day somebody realized Soylent Green is actually dehydrated people. And so the end of the movie, the kicker was the star of the movie's running, yelling, "Don't do it! Soylent Green is people!" And it was like the shocking end to a movie. So I don't want to know what they're fertilizing fields with. I just started an entire rumor right there, didn't I? But yeah. Hey, Birdman, thanks for being the delivery guy today. We appreciate that very much.
You rock, Birdman.
All right, and Copper gave you a tip, right? Oh, wasn't that sweet? All right, get back to work. All right, listen, folks, we do have a great team. And Copper, you had a caller a minute ago. Who was that called in? Was it JT from Lacey Springs or something like that called in? All right, well, listen, I would love to hear back from him. We're going to change segments here after the next break, but I definitely want to hear back from if there's anybody out there who's in the farming industry right now. If you are an agri-science, agricultural guy, if you're somebody who is dealing with the cost of these fertilizers or seeing the targeting of fertilizers, I would love to know. Phone lines are going to be open. They're open right now, 866-494-9866. By the way, keep in mind that in the next few days, we'll be announcing the new 800 number just for Rightside, and we'll make sure you have that when the time comes. But yeah, it is very cool. The Rightside studio is growing. The team is growing. The mission is still the same, to be solid, conservative, and just plain right, to make sure that we enlighten and entertain and empower and educate you in the process of being a conservative. Real quick, I got one call on line 5, Mike from Huntsville. Hey, Mike, how you doing today? What's going on? Yeah. Oh no! I could go all day without knowing that, Mike. We'll hope that's not. Yeah, man. Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for being in the audience. I got one more call to grab for the break. Let me see if I can get to JT from Lacey Springs real quick, and if not, we'll have to hold on. Hey, JT, Phil Williams, how you doing? I am, sir. What's on your mind? Yeah. Wow. Wow. So it's doubled, is what you're telling us. Um, wow. That's unreal. Can you imagine what it takes to go ahead and do the major mass production farms? I mean, the cost of fertilizer is through the roof right now. God Almighty. Hey, JT, thanks for the insight, man. We appreciate you. Got to run to a break, but thanks for being in the audience. Wow, that's real world. Take care, man. That's real world right there. All right, coming up after the break, we'll probably go to number 3 on the Triple Dipper. That's not how that works, is what it's called. You're gonna be curious to hear this one. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams, live from the Rightside Studios, local, state, and national stuff. All the issues, solid, conservative, just plain right. So I'm going to go ahead and say the phone lines are open. If you want to call in, I'll jump on calls with you, 866-494-9866. And listen, we're going to move to number 3 on the Triple Dipper. I'm calling it, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. So it's amazing when you stop and think about it that liberals are allowed to redefine reality whenever they feel like it. It's okay. They can go ahead and take the English language and they can bend it to what they want. They can decide that, I don't know, maybe a they them pronoun is allowed to apply to a singular individual. No, it doesn't. That is not grammatically correct. You cannot just say, well, because I say it doesn't. And what's crazy too is you've got educators that are going along with this. Like in school where they teach grammar, they're allowing they, them to be used for singular. What about the fact, though, that the biggest issue here is that the gender ideologues that are out there are saying that, you know, hey, how dare you not believe what I just told you, that men can have babies? It doesn't work that way. I'm so sorry. Wake up. Listen to us speak truth to you. It does not work that way. You can say it all you want to. Now you can, I recognize there are people of a different persuasion. The homosexual lifestyle is not my lifestyle whatsoever, but I recognize they are out there. But you cannot just bend the ideology to be whatever you need it to be at this particular non-binary. There's no such thing. I know some of you are freaking out right now. Did he just say that there's no such thing as non-binary? There's no such thing as non-binary. You are male or female, period. You just are. There is no such thing as a man getting pregnant. It can't happen. It's biologically impossible. You demanded for the last 2-3 years that we follow the science, when it comes to COVID, but we can't follow the science on things that are truly accepted science, like, I don't know, anatomy, physiology, biology in general. It boggles the mind. I've got a clip for you I want to play. This is what sparked this. I don't know how many of y'all saw this. But yesterday, it's actually the same thing as up on Fox right now. I'm sitting here looking up on the screen and realizing that I'm about to talk about what they're talking about on the 5. Sometimes I think they steal my material. Anyway, the bottom line is this. I've got a clip. Senator Josh Hawley was lauded by some for his patience, but encouraged by others for daring to ask the questions of the most condescending liberal law professor. And by the way, she's a law professor. My gosh, what is happening in her classroom? So yeah. I got clips right now. We're gonna play it. Audio, copper, clip 2. Go ahead and play it. Wow. By the way, UCal Berkeley School of Law, she's a tenured professor there, and that was her testifying to Congress before a U.S. Senate hearing. She is and by the way, that was her condescending. Are they? Are they? Are they? I take issue with you. This is your trans. He's simply asking the question: do you or do you not believe that men can get pregnant? I'd like to point out that your line of questioning is transphobic. It doesn't work that way. All right. I don't care what law degree she has. And by the way, I pity the students that have to be in her class. Can you imagine? That's who's teaching the next round of lawyers to come out of UCal Berkeley to interpret the laws of the state. And what are they going to what? And by the way, what are they going to interpret? Because if she can interpret life in general to be so generalized that it is whatever she declares it to be, then what does she do with the law? I guarantee you she's not a strict constructionist when it comes to the U.S. Constitution. Story on National Review yesterday. By the way, that's not how this works, is what I'm calling number 3 of the Triple Dipper. National Review, after that exchange between Hawley and the professor, Professor Bridges of UCal Berkeley, National Review pointed out, said it's not often that Senator Josh Hawley gets criticized for not going hard enough in a Senate hearing, but this column will be one of those rare times because they felt like he should have just wore her out. And they had the exchange that I just played for you. And there was nothing wrong with how Hawley approached Professor Bridges, they point out, and I agree. There was quite a bit right about it, and I agree. It says that Hawley was widely praised after the exchange by many people, and by ultimately this exchange demonstrated what they call the seriousness of the challenge that gender ideology poses and the insufficiency of just being allowed to ask the right questions and waiting for people to laugh this thing off the stage. That's what's going to happen. We have to keep asking the questions because when they open their mouths and espouse those things in an actual professional environment like, I don't know, before the U.S. Senate, it makes them sound as ridiculous as we know them to be. But when it comes from their own mouth and things like that happen, sooner or later, society is going to say, why are we putting up with this? This is stupid. It doesn't work that way. You can't go down that road and maintain some measure of credibility. Well, I'm just telling you right now, sooner or later, we got to laugh them off the stage. But we also have to, like I said earlier in my monologue at the beginning of the show, we have to recognize we are allowed to ask, like Senator Hawley said, so I'm not allowed to ask these questions? You're transphobic. You're causing suicide to escalate among the trans community. No, he's not. By the way, if you don't ask the questions, you're wrong. If you're cowed into not being allowed to dialogue, you're wrong. It's not as if they've got a real leg to stand on. The article I've got here from National Review points out that the thing that we deal with here is what the author calls, the testimony of inner experience and identity is assumed to be real, he says, because it's been cabined off from all the other factors. So basically, this is like when Oprah looked at them and said, you have to speak your truth. Well, it doesn't work that way. In real life, participation trophies don't happen, all right? In real life, the notion that everyone's a winner and you can follow your truth, that's not real life. I'm not saying that you have to walk around on eggshells. In fact, far from it. We should be allowed to have this dialogue. Go ahead and be uncomfortable, Professor Bridges, because most of the world does not agree with you. In fact, I would dare say that 99% of the world doesn't agree with you. But the reality is, we've got a situation right now where they have so, in the words of this author, Michael Brennan Doherty from National Review, they have so cabined off the ability to ask questions about what their internal dialogue with themselves is saying that they call themselves real when it's not. Folks, I'm going to tell you, that's not the way it works. That is not real life. Men do not get pregnant. And we have to quit allowing what the author from National Review calls transanity, because that's where we are right now. Well, I got a caller on line 2, so Copper, you highlight it when you're ready for me to grab that one on line 2. I'll go ahead and take it and see where it goes. Yeah, line 2, Shane from Decatur. Shane, how you doing today? I am, sir. Well, Senator Hawley tried to be nice, say he learned a lot too, but I think what he was speaking of was basically that he learned how stupid things can get. Yeah, she's a law professor at UCal Berkeley. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen parts of it. I've not had a chance to sit through the whole thing yet. Yeah. Yeah. I, I've heard that it's one of those shows. The Matt Walsh piece is one you have to take in small doses because it'll wear you out. Yeah. Hey, Shane. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. All right, let me jump over to line 3. Hey, it's Allie. Allie from Athens. How you doing, my friend? Okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that would have been a serious indoctrination. In fact, during the '60s, I'm not sure if it was stronger towards left-leaning ideologies or now, but wow, you're right. Absolutely. And all is striving and vanity and striving after wind. But Allie, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Take care. All right, real quick, I got about 1 minute. I'll go ahead and take last call here. Will from Monrovia. Will, how you doing today? I'm good, sir. What's on your mind? Yeah, yeah. They only want a one-sided conversation right now. They want to tell you what's what, and you have to lump it. But how dare we ask questions? And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't, not at all. Especially when our kids are involved. All right. Hey, Will, thanks for the call, man. I'm up against the break. You got to go take it. But we appreciate you being in the audience. All right, Copper, move us to the last break of the day. We'll go do that. We'll come back, wrap the day up. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. Back, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. By the way, you hear the ads for Just Love Coffee. And folks, I got to tell you, I love Just Love Coffee. They've got they're such an amazing place. And I say that not just for the great food and the great coffee products and the other drinks they've got, but they're also, one of the things that I do love about them is they are an organization that gives back to the community. It's like their thing is not just to be servants in terms of service provided with a something you're going to want to eat or drink. They love doing things that give back to the community as a whole. And so Travis over at Just Love Coffee's Huntsville locations here in the listening area wanted me to make sure y'all knew that for the next several weeks they've got some charitable fundraising opportunities going on there with different organizations they're supporting as a organization themselves. So July 16th, this coming weekend, at the Madison location, Maria House is who they're supporting. It's the Maria House Awareness and Fundraiser. The Maria House is an organization that's spelled M-A-R-E-A, by the way. The Maria House serves local single women, mothers of children, and women in crisis. And so, yeah, what they're doing basically is they open the doors to the Maria House to have an opportunity to sort of meet with people that are there. They raise funds. They do different things. They have other groups come in and sort of set up shop in the parking lot at different times. So, yeah, Just Love Coffee Cafe. So cool that they're not just a sponsor of this show. They're not just a provider of great beverages and things to eat, but they're also an organization that truly tries to give back to the community. This weekend, July 16th, they'll be supporting the Maria House. You might want to stop by. So back on that piece of the triple dipper that I've been doing, that's not how this works. Well, let me tell you, there are some experts. It's not just the law professors who know things. You remember the World Health Organization? Okay, some of y'all just cringed in your seat. Boomers over here laughing. The World Health Organization. Yeah, the same organization, by the way, that our own Alabama representative Mike Rogers, who represents sort of the eastern rim, if you will, of Alabama. He's already said that the World Health Organization, or the UN, has repeatedly proven itself to be an utterly useless organization. He's got actual legislation right now to have the U.S. pulled out of the WHO, the World Health Organization, and the UN permanently. Permanently. Well, storyline that I've got on Fox, dated yesterday, headline, you ready for this? The World Health Organization, you know that place that's filled with scientists? The World Health Organization now says that gender exists on a continuum and is beyond non-binary. What the heck? What are we doing here? All right, the World Health Organization will update its gender guidance to reflect its belief that gender goes beyond non-binary, the organization has announced. So they have a gender mainstreaming manual, they call it. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. See if you can even figure out what this means, because this is what you call liberal gobbledygook. You ready? That's an important intellectual phrase, gobbledygook. All right, the updated guidance for the WHO, the World Health Organization, will focus on, quote, you ready? Highlighting and expanding on the concept of intersectionality, which looks at how gender power dynamics interact with other hierarchies of privilege or disadvantage, resulting in inequality and differential health outcomes for different people. Going beyond non-binary approaches to gender and health to recognize gender and sexual diversity, or the concepts that gender identity exists on a continuum and that sex is not limited to male or female. Shut up! That is just awful. I mean, Copper, I see you laughing. Yeah, I know. It's just, but there were some great Scrabble words in there. There were some great Scrabble words in that mix. Although we did see the other day in one of my other stories that's like Boomer's pointing out, Scrabble had to remove a bunch of their words because they were deemed to be not woke enough or something. I don't know. World Health Organization. Did you have a caller a minute ago, Copper? What just happened? I saw you going on the board and it went away. Yeah. Oh, okay. Basically, you're saying that we couldn't put him on the air because of something he was saying, or what? Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that. Okay. Oh, I get you now. Thank you. Oh, it was a good phone call. Okay, thank you. All right. I thought you were saying you couldn't put him on the air because something inappropriate happened. I am so sorry. All right. I take back all of the thoughts that I went straight to the negative. I shouldn't have done that. All right. Well, listen. Hey, listen, folks. It has been an enjoyable time this week. We're going to continue on tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We're back in the syndication across the northern half of the state, from Clanton to the Tennessee line, from Tuscaloosa over to Gadsden, wrapping over into parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia. That's just fun, man. And I'm telling you, we're not done. It's because of this audience and, oh, by the way, the new Rightside Ruffians we have recently acquired. We're going to keep marching towards the coast. Rightside Radio, the goal is that we blanket the entire state of Alabama before too long. But for right now, I'm proud to be with those of you that are with us. All right, folks, listen. Coming up next, you got the great one, Mark Levin. We're back here tomorrow, too. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you then.